You didn't click on this video by accident. Your future self orchestrated this moment. The algorithm, just a courier, delivering a signal that was already coded for you. Right now, as these words land, the field shifts. Pay attention. This is not random content, it's a mirror. Something inside you has been waiting for this exact frequency, and the resonance is undeniable. In the next 2 minutes, you'll see why this is not information. It's activation. You're not hearing this. You're remembering it. That's why your body feels it before your mind understands it. The breath quickens, the heart expands, the logic questions, but presence knows. Picture yourself in the waiting room of destiny, ready yet held in suspension, like an archer with the bow drawn, but the arrow not yet released. That's where you are right now. The field, a living organism of frequency and coherence, is transmitting signals through resonance. This video isn't here to teach you something new. It's here to remind you of what you've always carried, hidden in your DNA, waiting for the mirror to awaken it. Many people live chained to logic, as if it were the only compass that could ensure safe steps. We were raised hearing that reason never fails, but who hasn't felt that inner whisper that made no sense to the mind, yet resonated in the heart? Intuition is that quiet signal the field sends, and even when chaos seems to surround us, a hidden frequency asks for alignment. It feels almost like the future self has already left breadcrumbs along the path, inviting the mind to soften. Deep down, everyone has experienced this strange coherence. When logic said, "Don't go," but something inside insisted otherwise. I remember a personal decision that looked completely irrational, turning down a stable offer to follow an uncertain idea. Logic screamed it was too risky, that no expansion would come from it. But intuition, that calm presence, whispered the opposite. Following it opened doors my body could never have predicted, as if an antenna had tuned into an invisible frequency, clearing the static. That's when I realized intuition isn't the enemy of logic, but the forgotten part of sovereignty. The field doesn't speak in words, but in vibration, and sometimes all it takes is one deep breath to trust. Think of the body as a living antenna. Every cell, every contraction and expansion works like a receiver, constantly picking up invisible signals. Some people sense them clearly, others dismiss them as coincidences. But the field doesn't wait for belief. It keeps transmitting frequency, longing for coherence. It's exactly like a radio. Unless you turn the dial, you'll only hear static. Intuition is that invisible movement, the subtle shift that transforms noise into melody. And you, how many times have you just known something without logical explanation? Maybe you felt you shouldn't walk into a certain place, or you called a friend at the exact moment they needed you. That's the field at work, sending resonance signals that vanish when ignored, but reveal mirrors of truth when followed. In those moments, the future self whispers, "Trust." It's never random, but a dance of presence, frequency, and alignment that goes far beyond rational calculation. Of course, it doesn't mean abandoning logic. Logic is structure, it provides safety and order, but when it rules alone, it creates an invisible cage. Intuition without logic is flight without wings. Logic without intuition is static without sound. True coherence is the balance where reason and sensitivity walk together. Intuition points the direction, logic organizes the steps. Together, they turn ordinary choices into portals of transformation. And in just a moment, you'll see how signals become even clearer through synchronicities. Take a simple example, deciding whether to move to a new city. Logic makes lists, costs, and stability. Intuition, on the other hand, sends a wave of expansion at the thought of the new place. If you only trust the spreadsheet, you may miss the alignment with your real frequency. But when you bring presence, intuition, and logic together, something shifts. The body as antenna vibrates, the heart confirms, and suddenly life rearranges itself. In 2 minutes, I'll show you how synchronicities amplify this process. There's something divine about realizing that even in chaos, intuition keeps whispering subtle directions. It's like a contraction before birth, uncomfortable, yet charged with promise. Many resist because they can't bear the mirror intuition places before them. But when embraced, it doesn't lead to static. It opens transformation. It's never about choosing one over the other, but about letting them merge into a single language of the field. With each conscious breath, you're reminded that life always speaks in signals. This conflict between logic and intuition is really a disguised invitation. Stay in the known or align with the invisible frequency already waiting for you. It's like standing before a mirror reflecting two versions of yourself, one rooted in fear, the other expanded in trust. While the mind begs for guarantees, intuition only offers presence. But inside that apparent void lies the most powerful code of transformation. And if you've ever felt it, wait until you see how the field uses synchronicities to intensify this call. At some point, everyone has experienced those strange repetitions that feel like signals disguised as coincidences. You hear the same phrase from 3 different people in one day, or you keep noticing the number 1111 glowing back at you from clocks. Logic calls it chance, but resonance whispers otherwise. The field is constantly arranging patterns, weaving signals into your awareness. Each one carries a frequency, a gentle reminder of coherence trying to form. The future self knows that your body, this living antenna, is capable of noticing the invisible language hidden inside ordinary events. I remember a time when a simple coincidence completely shifted my path. I was considering whether to start a project, uncertain and hesitant. Out of nowhere, a stranger brought up the exact idea I had been secretly wrestling with, using the same words I had written in my private journal. That static moment turned into clarity, a mirror reflecting my inner dialogue back at me. It was as if the field had orchestrated a perfect signal to say, "Yes, you're aligned. Step forward." That single encounter became the doorway into transformation I could never have designed logically. Signs often arrive like breadcrumbs scattered along your journey. A song on the radio echoes the very emotions you were unable to express. A dream lingers in your memory, holding a strange coherence with events that unfold days later. You walk past a bookshop and a title leaps out, matching the exact question you've been asking in silence. These are not accidents, they are frequencies converging. Your presence tunes the antenna, and what seemed like chaos suddenly organizes into meaningful patterns of alignment. The divine uses subtle language to guide those who pay attention. Here's something practical. Tomorrow morning, before diving into routine, pause for one deep breath and quietly ask the field, "What station am I tuned into today?" Then move through your day with awareness, noticing the contractions and expansions in your body. Did you hear a repeated phrase? Did you stumble across a symbol that mirrored your thoughts? Write these down, even the smallest ones. In 2 minutes of daily presence, you begin to build a dialogue with the field, proving to yourself that intuition and resonance aren't abstract. They're lived experience. What makes synchronicity so powerful is not its rarity, but its persistence. When you ignore one sign, another often appears, louder and closer, until coherence becomes impossible to deny. It's like static clearing on a radio. At first faint, then clearer, then finally unmistakable. This persistence is the mirror reminding you that alignment is already unfolding, and while logic might argue it's random, your intuition recognizes the rhythm. The body knows when the frequency shifts, when expansion begins to overtake contraction. That's the signal the future self has been waiting for you to notice. The beauty of synchronicity is that it bridges chaos and coherence. Imagine you're in a storm, unsure of direction, yet suddenly small markers appear. Lights, whispers, fragments of guidance. That's what the field does. It doesn't always remove the storm, but it gives you signs to navigate through it. And those who learn to trust the language of the field discover sovereignty in the middle of disorder. They understand that the divine doesn't always shout, but it never stops speaking. Presence becomes the doorway to hearing what was always there. Think about your own life. Have you ever met someone by accident who later transformed everything, or received a message at the exact moment you were about to give up? Those experiences carry a frequency so precise, it feels as if reality itself bent in your favor. This is more than luck. It's the coherence of resonance manifesting in your timeline. The field is like a mirror, always reflecting your state back to you. The more you trust, the more aligned signals appear, forming a path that feels both divine and deeply personal. Synchronicity is not the exception. It's the language of reality itself. The field is alive, and your body is the antenna decoding its signals. The more present you become, the clearer the frequency, the stronger the coherence, the bolder the alignment. And here's the secret. Every time you follow these signs, your future self celebrates because you've moved closer to transformation. But what happens when the signs stop feeling comfortable, when they lead you into spaces of contraction and uncertainty? That's where the real portal begins to open. Discomfort has a way of disguising itself as failure, but in truth, it's the hidden entrance into transformation. Think of the caterpillar. Before it can become a butterfly, it must dissolve entirely inside its cocoon. To logic, this looks like destruction, pure chaos. But to the field, it is coherence being rearranged on a higher frequency. The body feels contraction before expansion. The breath grows heavy before release. That uneasy tension you feel is not punishment. It's the signal of your future self preparing a new alignment. We've all faced endings that felt unbearable. The job that collapsed, the relationship that shattered, the familiar world that suddenly dissolved. In those moments, chaos feels absolute. Yet, if you look closer, each collapse carried a mirror, showing what was no longer serving you. Discomfort is the field whispering, "This form is too small for who you're becoming." It may sound divine in retrospect, but in the moment, it feels like suffocating static. Only later do we realize it was the portal opening all along. I remember a season of my life where everything seemed to fall apart. Plans dissolved, finances crumbled, friendships faded. My logic screamed that I was broken. But beneath the noise, intuition whispered something else. You are not breaking, you are being rebuilt. That shift, from viewing discomfort as chaos to viewing it as reconstruction, was everything. The body was not betraying me. It was an antenna adjusting to a new frequency. It was preparing for coherence, for expansion beyond what logic could hold. Here's a practice. The next time you feel discomfort pressing in, instead of resisting, take 3 slow breaths and ask, what is this contraction preparing me for? Write whatever comes, no matter how strange. You'll notice patterns, resonance between your inner whispers and the signals around you. Discomfort becomes less of an enemy and more of a divine mirror. This small shift in presence begins to reveal that what looks like chaos is often the field aligning you with your true frequency. In just 2 minutes a day, you start reclaiming sovereignty over how you perceive pain. It helps to see discomfort as a kind of cosmic reset. Just as muscles tear before they strengthen, life contracts before expansion. Your body knows this rhythm. Inhale, exhale, contraction, release. Chaos and coherence dance together in every breath you take. By mirroring this natural flow, you start to see endings not as punishments, but as invitations. The static that once felt unbearable turns into the hum of transformation. Suddenly, Even the darkest nights feel like preludes to dawn. Have you noticed how the hardest seasons often strip you down to your essence? You lose the titles, the roles, the illusions you thought defined you. What remains is presence, raw and undeniable. And in that stillness, intuition becomes louder than logic ever was. The discomfort has carved away what was false, leaving you sovereign over what's real. It's not that chaos disappears. It simply reorganizes into coherence once you surrender to the process. The future self doesn't fear discomfort. It knows it as the only doorway to expansion. Think about the cocoon again. From the outside, it looks like silence, but inside, it's chaos, cells dissolving, forms collapsing. The caterpillar doesn't resist. It allows the process. And only through that chaos does the divine blueprint emerge, wings coded in frequencies unseen. This is the mirror for us too. Our greatest transformations hide inside contractions we mistake for endings. If you feel the void right now, you're closer to flight than you realize. Discomfort is not the enemy, it is the portal. Every contraction you face is proof that expansion is waiting. The static in your life is not a failure, but a signal. And though logic may scream for safety, intuition whispers that something greater is being born through you. But here's the question. Once you accept discomfort as the doorway, how do you tune yourself daily to the field so that the signals become clear instead of overwhelming? That's where the practices of simple tuning come in. The field is always speaking, but most people miss its language because they never pause to tune the dial. Spirituality doesn't have to be complicated or distant. In fact, the more simple the practice, the stronger the frequency becomes. Just like a radio only plays music when you adjust beyond static, your body as an antenna requires intentional tuning. Presence, breath, gratitude, these are not cliches, but codes. Each practice strengthens coherence, aligning your future self with the resonance already waiting to be received. One of the simplest yet most powerful practices is conscious breathing. Try the 3-6-9 rhythm. Inhale for 3 seconds, hold for 6, exhale for 9. Do this 3 times and you'll feel your body shift from contraction to expansion. In less than 2 minutes, the static of your thoughts softens into presence. This isn't just relaxation, it's frequency alignment. Breath becomes the bridge between chaos and coherence, reminding your nervous system that the divine is found in simplicity. Your body tunes itself like a radio, and suddenly the field feels clearer. Another practice is automatic writing. Every morning, before logic has the chance to take over, sit with a notebook and write whatever comes through without censoring. At first, it may feel like random static, but over time, you'll notice patterns, resonance, even signals from your intuition that logic alone couldn't produce. This practice bypasses the noise of the mind and allows the antenna of your body to capture subtle transmissions from the field. What feels like scribbles can become mirrors of coherence, revealing your alignment with the unseen. Gratitude, too, is more than a nice thought. It's a code of expansion. When you express gratitude, you shift your frequency instantly. The body relaxes, presence deepens, and coherence strengthens. Imagine gratitude as the mirror that reflects back more of what you focus on. A simple practice. Write 3 things each night that you're grateful for, even if they seem small. Over time, you'll notice the field responding with synchronicities. Gratitude isn't just an attitude, it's a tuning fork that adjusts your entire vibration toward alignment. Think of daily life like a radio with countless stations. If you never turn the dial, you'll only hear static. Many people live stuck on one station, usually the station of survival, chaos, or doubt. But the moment you practice tuning, you realize there are endless frequencies available: peace, sovereignty, joy, transformation. These practices are not escapes from reality, but tools to access its deeper layers. The more consistently you tune, the more the field mirrors back signals of coherence. Here's a practical suggestion. Set tiny rituals throughout your day. Before opening your phone in the morning, breathe once with intention. At lunch, pause for a moment of gratitude. Before bed, write one sentence that feels like it came from your future self. These micro-practices may seem small, but they accumulate resonance. Over weeks, the field begins to feel less like static and more like a mirror reflecting your chosen alignment. The divine often hides its codes in the simplest routines. The beauty of these practices is their accessibility. You don't need special tools, sacred retreats, or hours of meditation to connect with the field. You only need presence. Your breath, your pen, your awareness, these are enough. In 2 minutes, you can shift your state from contraction to expansion. The body, as an antenna, responds immediately. And the more often you practice, the stronger the coherence becomes. Over time, logic no longer rules alone. Intuition and frequency take the lead. Spirituality is not meant to be unreachable. It's practical, repeatable, and woven into daily life. Each practice is a reminder that you're not separate from the field. You are the field, in form. But here's the paradox. When you ignore the subtle signals for too long, the volume doesn't stay low. The field raises its voice, and what once was gentle resonance turns into chaos knocking at your door. And that leads us directly to the next truth. Chaos is not the enemy, but the last invitation. When subtle signs are ignored, the field doesn't simply disappear. It amplifies. What starts as whispers of resonance eventually grows into storms of chaos. A missed signal becomes a louder contraction, a static that forces attention. Burnout, heartbreak, financial collapse, these are not punishments, but mirrors. The field increases the volume until coherence can no longer be denied. Logic may call it failure, but intuition recognizes it as the last invitation to realign. Chaos is the field saying, "It's time. You can't postpone transformation any longer." I once lived through a season where every structure I trusted dissolved in rapid succession. Work collapsed, relationships ended, plans scattered like dust. At first, I thought I was cursed, abandoned by the divine. But as the dust settled, I realized something striking. None of those structures matched the frequency my future self had been calling me toward. The chaos was not random. It was a forced realignment, a radical clearing of static. Only in hindsight did I see how the breakdown was the most coherent signal of all. Chaos is a paradox. It feels like destruction, but hides divine intelligence. Think of a forest fire. To logic, it looks like devastation, but in reality, it clears dead wood, releases seeds, and renews the soil. Life knows this rhythm. So does your body. Contraction before expansion, chaos before coherence. Every collapse carries hidden codes of sovereignty. When the familiar burns, the future self steps through the smoke, guiding you toward frequencies you would never have chosen willingly. Chaos, then, becomes the secret mirror of transformation. Here's a practice when life feels like it's falling apart. Instead of asking, "Why me?" pause and breathe deeply 3 times. Then ask, "What alignment is this chaos preparing me for?" Write down the first thought that comes, no matter how illogical. In that moment, you shift from victimhood into presence. You begin to see chaos not as static, but as a signal. Even 2 minutes of reframing can transform panic into curiosity. And curiosity opens the door to coherence, where intuition speaks louder than fear. Chaos is often life's way of catching up to the truth you've been avoiding. If you refuse to leave a job misaligned with your frequency, burnout arrives. If you ignore the quiet signals in a relationship, rupture becomes inevitable. The body senses it first. Sleepless nights, heavy breath, contractions of anxiety. These are not malfunctions, but warnings from your living antenna. Ignoring them invites louder breakdowns, but listening turns chaos into a map, a divine guide back to alignment. Think about times you've heard people say, "It was the worst thing that ever happened to me, but also the best." That's coherence born from collapse, a breakup that clears space for true connection, a business failure that births creativity, a health scare that forces presence. Chaos isn't cruel, it's precise. It removes what your future self knows you no longer need. It may feel brutal to logic, but to intuition, it is the kindest of invitations, the one that sets you free. The more you resist chaos, the more painful it becomes. Resistance is like holding your breath in the middle of contraction. Eventually, the body demands release. Chaos, when surrendered to, reorganizes into harmony much faster. It's the mirror showing you not who you were, but who you are becoming. The divine never wastes destruction. It recycles it into sovereignty, into coherence. The static dissolves, and suddenly expansion takes its rightful place. So when the whispers of synchronicity turn into storms of chaos, it's not because you've failed. It's because the field loves you too much to let you stay asleep. Chaos is the last call, the final signal that transformation is non-negotiable. But once you accept this invitation, how do you begin to see reality itself not as chaos, but as a mirror that faithfully reflects your inner state? That's the next secret waiting to be revealed. Reality is not separate from you. It's a mirror reflecting your inner state, back with perfect precision. Every experience you meet, every person you encounter, carries a frequency that matches your own resonance. When you feel insecure inside, the mirror often reflects rejection outside. When you feel sovereign and aligned, life responds with coherence and expansion. This isn't punishment or reward, it's physics of the field. Your body, acting as an antenna, tunes into certain frequencies, and the mirror projects them outward for you to see. I remember a period when I carried hidden resentment I thought no one could notice. On the surface, I smiled, but inside I carried static. Strangely, everywhere I went, I encountered conflict. Rude strangers, impatient co-workers, sudden breakdowns in plans. It was only later I realized the field was mirroring my internal chaos. When I shifted, through breath, writing, and gratitude, my external world shifted too. The mirror cleared, and what once looked like rejection became opportunities for coherence. The field was only ever reflecting alignment. This is why your future self invites you to stop fighting external reality and start decoding it. Think of every challenge as a mirror giving feedback. If you're ignored, maybe you're ignoring your own intuition. If opportunities seem blocked, perhaps your body is stuck in contraction, unable to hold expansion. The mirror doesn't lie, but it also doesn't judge. It simply reflects your presence, your frequency, your alignment. What you see outside is the divine echo of what you're holding within. Here's a practice. Write a letter as if you are your future self, 5 years ahead. Describe your daily life, your feelings, your presence. Don't hold back. Let coherence guide the words. Then read the letter aloud. Notice how your body reacts. Does it expand with resonance or contract with static? That reaction is the mirror in real time, showing you what frequencies are aligned and which ones resist. This simple exercise turns your own imagination into a tuning fork for transformation. When you treat reality as a living mirror, you gain sovereignty. Suddenly, rejection isn't cruelty, it's guidance. Delay isn't punishment, it's realignment. Chaos isn't failure, it's recalibration. Every event becomes a signal, each one helping you fine-tune your antenna. And once you embrace this lens, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What frequency is this reflecting in me?" That shift in presence opens doors logic could never unlock. Think about relationships. If you constantly attract partners who doubt you, maybe it's because you doubt yourself. If you find yourself surrounded by chaos, perhaps you're carrying unresolved static. The mirror is impartial. It simply projects your inner resonance outward. By shifting inside, through breath, gratitude, and alignment, the reflection changes. Reality becomes less about control and more about coherence. And once you master this, you realize you've been holding the code all along. It's almost humorous how literal the mirror can be. One person sets an intention to live with more joy, and suddenly friends invite them to spontaneous gatherings. Another commits to sovereignty, and instantly situations arise that test whether they'll stand in that truth. The mirror wastes no time. It immediately reflects the frequency you choose, even if it means amplifying contraction before expansion. It's not trying to trick you, it's trying to transform you. Presence is the only requirement. So if reality is a living mirror, then every reflection is a divine signal. It isn't about blaming yourself for what you see, but about reclaiming the power to shift it. The mirror follows your frequency, not your words, not your logic, but your vibration. And once you understand that, the next realization emerges. You're not just tuning for yourself. Every signal you shift ripples outward, influencing the collective field. Which brings us to the next truth. You are the link that bridges the whole. Your life is not lived in isolation. Every frequency you embody ripples outward into the collective field. The choices you make, whether rooted in fear or alignment, don't stop at your skin. They extend like waves, influencing family, friends, even strangers who cross your path. Your body is not only an antenna for personal resonance, but also a transmitter for collective coherence. Each act of presence, each breath of gratitude, each moment of sovereignty strengthens the mirror for everyone around you. You are not just living for yourself, you are tuning reality for the whole. I've seen this play out in small but powerful ways. When I chose to align with gratitude in the middle of chaos, my family, once anxious, softened too. Conversations shifted, relationships healed, opportunities unfolded. The frequency I carried acted like a code, silently rewriting the room. Logic would say those changes had nothing to do with me, but intuition knew the truth. The field was responding collectively to the signal I broadcasted. My future self wasn't just guiding me, it was guiding everyone connected to me. Think of it like tuning forks. Strike one, and the others around it begin to vibrate in resonance. Humans work the same way. Your coherence sparks coherence in others. Your expansion invites expansion in your community. Even your contractions send signals, though they often reflect as chaos until transformed. This isn't mystical, it's physics of the field. Alignment spreads. Sovereignty is contagious. And once you see yourself as part of the larger antenna of humanity, you realize the divine didn't just design you to survive, but to transform. Here's a practice. The next time you feel stuck, imagine that your shift will unlock someone else's freedom. Breathe with that awareness. Ask who might benefit if I realign my frequency right now, then act. Maybe it's as simple as choosing kindness in a tense moment, or trusting your intuition in a decision that feels risky. These micro shifts ripple out. In 2 minutes, your alignment can transform an entire space. This is the responsibility and the gift of being a link in the collective mirror. The paradox is this: the collective field also shapes you. When you heal, you help others, but when others awaken, they help you too. It's an endless loop of resonance, frequency feeding frequency. That's why communities rooted in presence and coherence feel so powerful. They amplify transformation. One sovereign choice multiplies across timelines, creating expansion far beyond what logic could track. The future self isn't just guiding individuals, it's weaving a network of mirrors to awaken the whole. Consider global movements. Many of them begin with one person, one signal of courage or coherence. That signal ignites others, and suddenly millions are tuning into the same frequency. History proves this again and again. Transformation is never solitary, it is collective by nature. Chaos spreads, but so does coherence. And in that truth lies your responsibility. Every contraction you release, every alignment you embody becomes a gift to the world. You may never see all its effects, but the field does. You are the bridge between worlds, the inner and the outer, the personal and the collective. What you release within yourself, you release in the field. What you align inside, you align outside. This is why ignoring your intuition doesn't just cost you personally. It delays the collective coherence longing to emerge. And conversely, trusting your presence doesn't just heal you, it opens portals for others. Sovereignty is never selfish. It is the divine act of carrying codes that the world desperately needs. So the truth is simple yet profound. You are not just waking up for yourself. You are the link, the tuning fork, the antenna broadcasting coherence into the human field. Every breath of presence shifts timelines, not only yours but ours. And now comes the question, if you are this link, how do you anchor everything you've learned so far into a larger story, weaving it back to the very beginning of this journey? That's the loop we're about to close. Every time you're about to cross a portal, a guardian appears, but it's not there to stop you. It's there to see if you trust. The fear, the doubt, the chaos that rise before the shift, they are the dragon at the gate. And when you realize that the dragon isn't an enemy, but a mirror, something shifts. You stop waiting for the portal because you understand. You are the portal. This entire video wasn't chance. It was a call you sent to yourself from a future time, reminding you that the signal is alive in your body right now. If you felt this message in your body, write in the comments, "I heard it." Let that be your signal, your declaration of alignment. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and activate the bell, not as routine, but as a ritual of tuning, a way to stay in coherence with this frequency. Because now that the call has been heard, there's a hidden detail, a code almost invisible yet carried by everyone, and it's waiting for you in the next video.